So you're right on. These diets we're talking about, guys, they fall into this study that was published in the American Journal of Medicine. And this study says that 95% of dieters regain unwanted weight, getting caught up in the endless cycle of yo-yo dieting. So just what we're talking about, HCG, the low-carb diets, all these diets that you guys have just mentioned, boom. But you know what, when you drop the 30 pounds on one of those, what does everybody at work say?
Look great.
You look great. What are you doing? And so that imprints something right here, right? And so when that diet doesn't work or we can't sustain it, what do we get? What ends up happening the next time we want to go on a diet? Well, according to this study, we fall back right into the same thing. We try another crash diet, get the weight off. Now, when we put the weight back on, do we generally go back to that same weight we started at?
Mm-hmm.
We don't. Do we go higher? We go higher, right? Let's show everybody why this happens. This is a really important part of the seminar today, so follow me on this. This is Mr. Jones, and Mr. Jones is our everyday all-American male, okay? And this would be consistent with a guy that would walk in here on a regular basis or be referred in here on a regular basis. Now, Mr. Jones weighs 200 pounds. Mr. Jones has 30% body fat. So if we break down his body composition, what that means is that Mr. Jones is carrying about 60 pounds of fat, leaving 140 pounds of lean body mass. What do you guys think lean body mass is? So if we pulled this fat off, what's lean body mass? Muscle? Absolutely. Technically, it's everything that's left over. It's a skeleton and it's everything, but I do want you to be thinking about muscle when we talk about lean body mass. Well, let's look at this 8-week crash diet. Mr. Jones goes on this 8-week crash diet. He drops 30 pounds, just like we've been talking about, right? But look at this number. Body fat, 30% still. Well, how could you lose 30 pounds and still have 30% body fat?
You're losing muscle.
What was that?
Water weight muscle.
You're losing muscle.
You're losing muscle, water weight. Absolutely. You're right on the money. So do you think when Mr. Jones started that diet, for whatever reason, high school reunion's coming, wants to feel better, whatever, do you think that he thought, well, I want to lose 30 pounds of muscle and water weight? What do people intend on targeting when they go on a diet? Fat, right? So let's look at this a little bit more. There was some fat that come off on this crash diet, but as you can see, 51 pounds from 60 pounds of fat is not a lot, right? Look at the lean body mass. Was 140, is now 119. Does anybody think that losing muscle is a good thing? If we think of muscle as the machine that fires up our metabolism, okay, we're going to be talking to you a lot about metabolism. You want your metabolism to be moving quick. You want a fast metabolism. Well, those crash diets, though everything we think as dieters that we're doing to keep our metabolisms moving fast are actually slowing our metabolisms down. And that's what's happening in this scenario, because now that Mr. Jones has lost so much lean body mass, look at this, 21 pounds of lean body mass, only 9 pounds of fat, 3,000 calories. Okay, 3,000 calories means that when Mr. Jones was 200 pounds at 30% body fat, if he was eating somewhat healthy and somewhat clean, he could maintain that size without gaining weight or losing weight. He was eating somewhat healthy, right? Now that's based a lot on your lean body mass. Remember I talked about how important muscle is, and to at least hold on to the muscle we have. So what do you think's happened to the amount of calories he can eat now that he's lost all that lean body mass? What do you
Much
think?
less.
What's that?
You can eat much less.
He can eat much less. Does that make sense? How about 2,000 calories? So, you know how we talked about 500 calories a day and trying to do that the rest of your life? Mr. Jones was used to at least eating 3,000 calories, and he went on the crash diet, he got it off, but it's getting old. He's tired of it. So how many calories is he going to go back to eating?
3,000.
At least, right? 3,000 calories?
Tribe somewhere.
Yeah. So guess what happens if he eats more than 2,000 calories? He gains weight. Does he go back to 200 pounds and 30% body fat?
No,
Where does he go?
body fat will be higher.
His body fat will be higher, 220 pounds, thus the yo-yo diet. Does that make sense to everybody? This is what's happening. This is what that study that was published showed with 95% of dieters. Now, again, this is not to make fun of dieters. We're dieting for a reason. We want to get the fat off. Generally, we just need direction. We're searching for direction, the way to do it right, that we can sustain, that's good for us. So let's look at that a little bit. Let's talk about the right way to do it. Here's Mr. Jones again. Same scenario, 200 pounds, 30% body fat, the 60 and the 140 on the fat and the lean body mass. Mr. Jones meets someone that is connected with Team THF and talks to him about a 12-week fitness program. Mr. Jones says, I tried an 8-week diet and I lost 30 pounds, but it didn't work too well for me. And the suggestion is made that maybe you need to do it right, take just a little bit more time, 12 weeks, because generally if something sounds too good to be true, what?
It usually is.
It usually is, right? How about the commercials late at night that say, take this pill and lose 15 pounds in 48 hours? You ever seen a commercial similar to that? What are we losing if we drop that kind of weight in 48 hours? We lose water weight, probably, that's going to come right back on, right? But people get pretty anxious, because I don't want to say desperate, but desperate/anxious to get that body weight off, and they're willing to do some pretty crazy things to do it, right? So let's look at this. 170 pounds, look what happens to the body fat, 10%. Obviously a lot different than the first scenario, right? So maybe he's onto something here now. To give everyone an idea of what 10% body fat looks like for men, most men will start seeing their abs regardless of what age they're at when they're at 10% body fat. So do you think that Mr. Jones at 170 pounds and 10% body fat looks different than Mr. Jones at 170 and 30% body fat? Pictures in your mind? Much different, right? Let's look what happened with the 10%. 17 pounds of fat mass now. Now we need to have some fat on our bodies, guys, or we'd be dead, right? So don't look at that and think, wow, 17 pounds is still a lot. 17 pounds of fat on a 170 pounder, excuse me, it's pretty dang good. 10% body fat, which means 153 pounds of lean body mass. Now some of you are thinking, well, wait a second, I've always learned that you can't lose fat and gain muscle at the same time. Well, we know that in our programs, the thousands that Rick and many of the consultants have run, that men are generally, on an average, will gain at least 5 pounds of muscle, and women will gain at least 3 pounds of muscle on a good fat loss program. So this is an extreme one of muscle gain to prove a point here and to kind of make you understand the correct way of doing this. But at 153 pounds, when we break the numbers down this time, 13 pounds of lean tissue gain, lean muscle, 43 pounds of fat loss that were taken off. So this means that, remember, what's that 3,000 calories? Somebody tell me, let's see. Well, what is it, Tyler?
in order for him just to maintain.
Right, so guys, everybody remembers in scenario one where he started in both situations, 3,000 was about where his daily was to just stay where he was at, right? So now that I've told you that muscle is your metabolism burning machine, and the more that you build, the more that you get to eat. For every pound is about 60 to 70 more calories. So as our clients on fat loss or gaining muscle, we actually increase their calories. Jason's going to talk a little bit about that. So what do you think he does in this scenario based on what I've taught you so far? Where do you think his calories at 170 pounds and 10% are going to be compared to 3,000 calories if he's put on all that muscle? Higher or lower? So you're saying higher? Everybody agree with higher?
I agree.
You agree?
I do.
4,000. 4,000 calories, guys. So what we're learning here today is that by at least maintaining and even building muscle is a very good thing for us. It's a very good thing for our metabolism, and it is a factor that affects our metabolism. Now there are other things. We're going to teach you that a little bit. So we look at the crash diet, we look at the 12-week fitness program done properly. You guys know which one obviously sounds best. So how do we do it? That's the question, right? Sounds good. But how do we do it then? How do we use the real foods, and how do we learn this and incorporate it and put it into our daily life? Well, let's talk about it. If I was to walk into Team THF and I had never done anything as far as my fitness and my nutrition, and you were going to teach me, all of you were going to teach me based on just where you're at now. I know some of you maybe have more background in nutrition and exercise than others, but what would the 5 components of fitness be, do you think? What would I have to do? What would I have to focus on? What 5 areas?
Nutrition.
Exercise
Nutrition.
and nutrition are 2. So let's post the first one.